Welcome to the PROUST Questionnaire.
35 questions giving us insight into what makes creative people tick.
Hi, Caroline. Today we're in for a treat and something that I actually know will be really profoundly inspiring and also funny and entertaining.
Yes, and this was such a coup on your part to persuade our current guest to come and talk to us on the podcast, Anna Deavere Smith, the formidable, famous, fantastically talented actor, performer, writer, activist, teacher. We did this interview with Anna Deavere Smith in the spring, before the pandemic, before the killing of George Floyd, but it was a tremendously, nevertheless, inspiring and engaging conversation. And it was particularly fun because she's a colleague of yours at NYU, and we got to speak with her in one of her classrooms at NYU.
Which was amazing because in some ways when she came, she gave us an hour of her time. And as you said, she's on stage. Her piece, Notes from the Field, Doing Time in Education, is kind of about the sort of systematic way in which especially students of color are disadvantaged in this system. And she's tackled that by interviewing teachers, educators, parents, students, and turning that into theater pieces that are now on HBO, have been running all over the country. When we met her, she was about to go into class, and I just remember, apart from many of the answers that our listeners are about to hear, the incredible focus that she was already so present, and you could feel, and to be in the presence of a great teacher means to be somebody who's really, she was gathering all of her energy for the students for that day. And I think she was about to teach for 6 hours straight.
Yeah.
And you could feel there was, as if you're seeing a great actor about to go on stage, and all she was doing, going into the classroom next door.
Yeah.
And she talked to us how she had, so we'll hear a little bit about her teaching, her art, how she thinks about the connection between art and activism. And we, of course, do this podcast to learn, actually. I think we just kind of want to give people an opportunity, and if they are kind and gracious enough to join us, to actually have this conversation about how do you turn your own potential to do something into the capacity to transform the whole world.
Yeah. No, she's such an inspiring figure, and she's accomplished so much in her lifetime, in her career. And yeah, there was this real sense for me as well. And you and I are both professors too. You teach at NYU with Anna Deavere Smith. I'm at Barnard College and Columbia University, uptown in New York City. And you and I both know something about the tremendous energy and focus that it takes to be effective in the classroom. And the idea that she could marshal that kind of force for her students after marshaling that kind of force and focus and energy in her conversation with us was doubly impressive. I usually can't talk to anybody for like an hour before I go into the classroom because I'm too scattered otherwise.
That's why it's nice for the two of us. So in some ways, I think for the two of us, it was an experience of being truly inspired and kind of awed. And the thing I think that we both know as teachers, you're learning the entire time. You're learning from your students, and every class you prepare for anew, and you rehearse, you try to do everything, but you are also just going in as if it's a new situation. And I remember from this conversation, I loved Anna's talks about being on the beach in California and everything she says about the wave. So once people get to listen to this, they're very funny answers and very profound at the same time. Anna Deavere Smith is on Instagram as Anna Deavere Smith. It's Deavere. So Anna Deavere Smith can be found there. The podcast has an Instagram, PROUST.questionnaire. We also have a website, PROUSTquestionnaire.net. And I'm on Instagram as Uli NYC. It's ULI NYC. And Caroline, you're also on Instagram. And I love always seeing your Instagram. So tell us what the handle is so people can find you as well.
Oh, yes. It's Caroline Weber 2020 with numbers instead of words at the end. And you were one of my first friends on Instagram. I came very late to the whole social media game, but it's a lot of fun. And so it's a way that people can go on and find out more about us if anyone's interested in what we're doing. But the main thing we're excited about always and interested in the most is the guests that we're talking to. And with Anna Deavere Smith, we really got someone very, very special.
So if you're imagining what we did, so we're going to take you into this conversation in a minute, and we went into a room, and it was sort of in Lower Midtown Manhattan. It was a Sunday, and she was teaching all day on Sunday, and it was a kind of unusual building for some people, but not for us. It's kind of an industrial building. It's been converted into acting studios. So we were sitting in this big space on 2 chairs, and then Anna comes in. So let's tune in and hear how she responded to these 35 questions.
Fantastic.
Welcome to the PROUST questionnaire.
Thank you.
So we'll start with the first question on this questionnaire, which is, what is your idea of perfect happiness?
I like the water, and Bolinas, California, is a place where I experience extraordinary happiness. I have a friend there who has a few houses there, and she's incredibly generous about those homes. And and all you have to kind of do is call her manager, her house manager, and say, well, are any of the houses available? And one of them is a cottage that's up on a hill. And from it, I can see, I'm looking at the Pacific Ocean, but on a clear day, I can see this part of the skyline of San Francisco.
Wow.
And on the one side is this very snobby area called Stinson Beach, of all these, it's like a gated community. I can see down to that. And then on the other side is Bolinas, which is like a sort of rough surfer's town that has managed to stay that way. Every time, I guess the state or the roads commission or whatever puts up the sign to say Bolinas that way, people tear it down. And the gas station, the gas is more expensive because they give the money to the homeless. They don't chase the homeless off the streets.
Wow.
So you see these people who are like old hippies, dancing in the street. There's this bar that's just like this beat up place. Nobody's changed it. It just stays this bar with these people when I go get my coffee in the morning who are, they look really down and out. But there's no shelter for down and out people.
Right.
And so I love the feeling there. And I love sitting on her this outside sort of deck. And, I see these people waiting for the surf. It's not like a dynamic surf, but to me, it's just hope. Like they're there at sundown, still waiting for a wave.
Oh my God.
I like that.
And it's really where I've gone when I just have to be away. I went there right before I brought Notes from the Field to New York.
Okay.
I'd had a very challenging, though successful time in Boston with the show. And I just went there and I just sat out there and kind of listened to the same songs over and over again under my headphones.
Open for a wave.
And I was hoping for a wave of energy.
Right.
I was hoping for a wave of courage, like New York, and I'm beat and I'm tired. And man, so I was waiting for a wave too. Exactly.
And you got a wave, it sounds like. Yes.
I
You survived New
found
York?
a kind of wave. The show was very successful in New York, and I found a kind of a wave. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I find a wave there. Little tiny place with a fireplace. Can't find many places would burn fireplaces anymore. So it's heaven. That's happiness.
And the second question is, what is your greatest fear?
I can't say failure because a lot of people think that I take risks. Or not a lot of people, but what does it mean when somebody says you're so brave? Maybe it means maybe they have a lot of fear, I'm afraid of heights, afraid of losing my sight. Yeah, I think it would all be in that category. Yeah.
All right. What is the trait you most deplore in yourself?
It's a really great question. Envy. And I don't think I'm any more envious than other people. In fact, I think I'm less. John Lahr, who was Bert Lahr's son and was a great critic and writer for the New Yorker for a long time, wrote, I never read the piece. I don't read what's written about me, so maybe I'm afraid of that. I don't read what's written about me. I don't like to look at photographs, never have. It's not just about getting older. Don't read reviews. Don't read even like some of the times. Last Sunday, somebody brought it to me on the plane yesterday, thinking it was and I just like took it, hit it,
Crumple.
I don't want to read it. I don't want to know.
Yeah.
But and my rule is whether it's good or bad, I don't read it. I just say when people say I don't read reviews, and this wasn't even a review. It's just like I'm not reading it. I don't read it. I suppose that's offensive to the writer. But he wrote that the biggest, and I'll never forget this, he said to me, and then I'm pretty sure it was in the piece too, whatever, but he said to me, I remember he said to me, not the most popular, but the most prevalent emotion in Los Angeles is envy.
Oh.
And I felt that's right.
Really?
Because even when you have to go and talk to, it's nothing very, I can't think of an actress or an actor who would love being judged in an audition or something like that. Or when you go pitch, I mean, it's an art form, really. You guys have to do it all the time. And it's elegant. It's probably just as elegant in Hollywood as it is in the publishing world. It is.
Okay.
But there's this feeling there. It's just like a really bad feeling. And it's that you're being judged. But I also think it's because people come to work every day full of envy of what just happened. Right. And it's in the theater. I don't know if it's in the Academy. I think it's in the Academy.
Oh, a little bit.
A little bit.
Boy,
So,
just
I
smidgen.
when I feel that in myself, and especially now that I'm older, I feel like, you know what? Drop that.
Yeah.
Or I'll go, oh, I don't want to do this, or I don't want to do that. That's envy.
So you can catch it when you
I
feel
can catch it.
Yeah. There's some friends of mine who do like AA and NA, those programs, always have these slogans that always to me sound very, very helpful, actually. And one of them is compare, despair. And this idea that if you're enviously comparing yourself all the time, it only leads to a bad place.
But I also think in our professions, it's like an epidemic, like narcissism.
Yeah.
And, it's just all around you. You just have to be aware that it's there and be free of it. I mean, to me, it's like freedom, or I'm not going to name a name. There's an incredibly famous playwright. Never went to see anybody's work. I mean, this individual is really revered. And when I read that, also, I think it was a John Lahr
All right.
profile of this individual. And I was like, I'm done. I do not revere you. Why can't you go see other people's work?
Yeah.
What's that about?
Right.
I'm not saying it's about envy, but it's certainly a lack of interest.
Well, certainly. Yeah. No, and it's a narrowness, right? Like, how can you not be interested in what your peers are doing, what other people are doing? Well, so here's a perhaps related question. What is the trait you most deplore in others?
An overabundance of judgment of others.
All right.
Makes me feel really bad to be around people like that.
Yeah. Would you say that's rampant in LA too, or?
Oh, it's the whole business. Everything is. I mean, all of us in our professions are. I don't think does it really need to be a part of it.
Right.
I don't know. My students. Everybody has a role. It sounds like kindergarten, but actually it's very interesting. Everybody in the class, I have 20 students. I usually like to have 12. I have 20 this year. They all have to take a role, which is like some of it is like really like the class custodian.
Oh.
But think about it.
Yeah.
But what is that really about? Because we don't really want to think of it. Nobody wants to be a custodian anymore. But what is a custodian doing? And if we really looked it up, it's taking care of things. It's respecting things. It's making sure everything's okay, right? So with class custodian. And one of the people used to be that they had to do the seating.
Oh.
Which seems like, well, what's that? I mean, and in the past, I've been doing this for about 6 years. They just come in, I think, and, well, this is easy roll, just randomly put. So this year, I really engaged with this person. And we really thought about it, like, well, think about it. Like, there's a fairy tale about somebody who turned into a witch, basically, because there was no place for that individual at the table. Mm-hmm. What does it mean there's no place for me? Or you and we both know if we go to a thing and we're looking up and down that table for our name card, there's something about it. We talk about all these things, envy, judgment, everything. Where are we seated is huge. Mm-hmm. And so after, I had this sort of deeper conversation with her, she said, well, I think everybody will feel judged. And I said, well, first of all, here at New York University, this is not a judgment-free environment. So I'm not creating a utopia in my class. So
it's
that's
useful
number
to remind them
one.
of that. Yeah.
That's number one. Mm-hmm. But number two, maybe there are other ways to organize people.
Yeah.
So she sent out a questionnaire. And last week, they were like stunned that like the whole half of the room was water signs. Because one of her questions was, birth sign.
Yeah. How did you come to that system? That's fascinating to give everyone a role. Like, how did you decide upon how?
Because, I felt that it bothered me that here at New York University, where a lot of people will tell you, less now than, say, in 2003, when there were 5 suicides.
Oh, right.
Student suicides. People will say, if you say, what's good about NYU? They'll say it's in New York. So there's this way in which, and they have improved over these last 16 years, but, there's a way in which I think sometimes we take for granted that we're a community. And I just thought that my students, particularly like I bring guests in last week, this woman who was a singer for the Stones since 1986. I mean, I bring in people, and like they'll just walk out like nothing happened. It's like, you know what I mean? It's like on to the next thing.
You mean the student will walk out?
Yeah. And forget about saying thank you.
Oh,
and,
God.
And I go other places, to talk or whatever. And it's often just more gracious than it is here. Not everywhere.
So it's good to teach them how to build their own community.
Because you can't take it for granted.
Right.
A group is not a community, and in order to do the best work, you need to be in a community. And the communities I've worked in, particularly in working, that have given thought to that, whether they realize it or not, even if it's hierarchical, which is like the problem with her question.
Sure.
Even if it's hierarchical, if you see that everyone, like let's say at a table read, you can tell that everyone has a job to do and they can't wait. They're looking for the opportunity to do their job. It's a whole different environment to work in.
That's fascinating. Which living person do you most admire? Another easy one.
I don't have a most admire. I just got off the phone. I have a couple mentees, and one of them had said he wanted to talk to me about something he was writing, and so I figured I'd talk to him in the cab right here. And then he dropped a bomb on me about something in his life that is just like, I mean, even the cab driver, like when he was getting out of the cab, opened the door, was helping me out, because I was like, what? He just dropped this bomb on me.
Oh my God.
And I admire him for the way he struggles. I have another mentee who's I keep saying he's just out of Juilliard. He's been out for a while. Great jazz pianist. I admire him. I admire them. I admire a lot of people. I'm not going to go to a famous person. I think it's really complicated. That people who are in power or famous, I think, I would say I don't know about admiring, because I think these constructs are very complicated. There's a lot of people around them.
Right.
There's a way in which they've been able to hold on to their values in spite of us being in a very toxic world, right now in particular. So I think especially now, it's very difficult to say who I admire.
Yeah.
What is your greatest extravagance?
I spend too much money on travel. I spend too much money on good hotels. I tell myself and people that my hobby is hospitality. I mean, there's some truth to it, but I think it's probably unnecessary.
What is your current state of mind?
Well, I mean, I think everything's okay. I mean, I'm getting ready. There's a certain, not today, there's no adrenaline because I just got off a plane late last night and slept. Think I might be fighting a cold. I'm usually pretty ramped up about going in there, teaching them. So yeah, I'm excited. And most days there's something to be excited about. I'm very concerned, as most people are, about our country. And I don't know, am I depressed? I feel like I'm kind of, I truly don't understand what's happening with us and also elsewhere in the world. So am I scared? I don't know. But I'm standing looking at something that I know is so much bigger than me. And I wish I had the time to go around and understand it, whether it is to do the obvious thing, go talk to Trump supporters, or whether it's to find a philosopher or a historian who's not going to just say it's the Third Reich.
Right.
But who can tell me in depth what's going on. Because I don't know.
What do you consider the most overrated virtue? Sort of what the public thinks is a good.
Oh, well, I mean, money.
Make money.
What people call beauty that's not beauty, which is not even fashion. It's the presentation of self that is based on very often already decided ways that one should present oneself. That's part of a huge industry, part of which I'm involved in, the entertainment industry. And I think I think fashion's great. I think beauty's life-saving. That's Elaine Scarry, that's not my idea. But talking to her, I've come to believe that. So it's not about beauty. That's not the problem. It's just this kind of, when I was little, the color community, which I'm deliberately saying the color community, they'd say, to a girl, stop switching. Which meant like walking down the street flaunting yourself.
Switching.
Stop switching. And it's like a lot of people walking around switching right now. Why? What do we have to switch about? Like a swagger. I don't enjoy a swagger the way most people do. Right. I also don't enjoy confidence the way most people do. I tell them that every time I start teaching, I say confidence is overrated, give doubt a try. I don't admire confidence.
No. On what occasion, if any, do you lie?
Boy, that's good. Well, what's a lie?
You tell us.
I was in Washington and had done about my 365th interview, I'm making that number up, when the Monica Lewinsky story dropped. And I had been there already. I thought it was finished, like trying to learn about the press and their relationship to the president, going all the way back to Jefferson.
Sure.
And Clinton was an interesting president because they didn't like him, In fact, when I finally got an interview with him, and when you have limited time, you better have the right question. My question was, Mr. President, this is before Monica Lewinsky, Mr. President, do you feel like you're being treated like a common criminal? And, Rahm Emanuel had to come in and break the meeting up because it went on it was over a half hour. He had a lot to say about that. What was the question?
But on what occasion do you lie?
So the matter of lying came up then.
With President Clinton.
Oh, yeah. And so I was thinking about lying. And here's the point. So I called my sister, who had a 2-year-old, and I said, has Elizabeth started to lie yet? And there was this long pause, and my sister said, she makes up stories like, where's Daddy's shoes? Jessica, the cat, ate them. right? So lying, what's a lie? I mean, I think a real lie is very deliberate and planned, right? I think it's hard to tell the complete truth if you're gonna, quote unquote, hurt somebody's feelings. But I think, when you say fear too, I'm very afraid of getting in trouble and always have been even from a child. So I'm probably I am afraid to tell a real flat, straight out lie.
Okay, just because the
You're
prospect of getting
You're going
caught.
to get caught. I mean, it's not like I'm like a nun or I'm virtuous. My fear of getting caught keeps me from telling a real big lie.
Okay, well.
Like a Jeffrey Epstein type of, a lie.
This question is so strange, and Willie and I have kind of made the decision to keep these questions from the 1890s, but I sort of apologize in advance because I don't approve of the question. What do you most dislike about your appearance?
Well, I'm surprised the extent to which I don't like getting older. I never thought I would care about it because I've never been invested for a variety of reasons that also aren't virtuous, but sort of the way I'm made up in my biography, I've not been invested in, I never switched, put it that way. Nobody ever had to tell me to stop switching.
Yeah.
And so I've never switched or swaggered my appearance for any reason, ever in my whole life. That's a long time. So I'm surprised the extent to which now aging bothers me, because I didn't see it coming. I'd see my friends who were 40 start to worry about it, and I'd be like, well, I don't have to worry about that because I was never invested in this. It was never a commodity for me. I never got anything for my appearance. Or when I was younger, I remember this guy saying to me, you're what did he said? He said something like, you're fine, but you don't use it. Or like they would say, you're attractive, but you don't know. Like men and women,
right.
That's what people say.
Yeah.
So I think that even that is interesting. Like I think I feel invisible. And but now that I'm older, I don't feel so invisible anymore. So it's kind of like too late to be aware of any aspect of my visibility.
I see. Yeah. Yeah.
Which living person do you most despise?
Donald Trump.
Okay.
That one was very easy.
Yeah.
2 words.
That's a favorite answer among our interviewees. What is the quality you most like in a man?
A lot of my work is about men. I have a play on right now, Fires in the Mirror, and I campaign for them to hire a man, not a woman, for a one-woman show. But I think I upset everybody, because at first I was just like Mama Baer, and everybody's so happy to have me around as a playwright.
Yeah.
And one day I left a performance, and I said to the director, I said, there's nothing feminine about this. Everybody got very upset with me. And having a man do the show, which is, I felt that maleness had to be articulated, but it showed me how male it already was without a man. So that anything that was feminine was like, it almost disappears. So I've dedicated a lot of my work to men, black men.
Yeah.
And I think what would I say I admire the most about men? I suppose if a man fully understands his physical power, and has based a system of respect around that, like one of the men I admire the most, I admire the word you used, is a former heavyweight boxing champion. He won the world championship. And he got hit in the head and he could never box anymore. And he has trained me, and he worked with me very closely on Notes from the Field, which is really about men. Traveled with me, was, and in performance he would come by like every night And he'd say, knock on the door. Nobody can come in, but he could. Good luck, champ.
Wow.
Or if I had a hard time, I was having a hard time, and he came in, and I was crying, and he just looked at me, and he started crying too. He said, of course you're scared because you're the champ. And on the other side, there are white men who, when I was a young professor, had a very rough time on their tenure track at USC. They still should be sued. Who understood that they were white men. This is in the 80s. And I was a black woman being slapped around on the tenure track by white men.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And I will always respect how they really showed, like one man called me up and said, in this whole thing, which is outrageous, never ever use the word racist. He said, they know. Don't use that word in any meeting, because it'll shut it down. He said, they know they're racist. You don't tell them that. Some of the best advice I ever got.
So you followed that advice?
Absolutely. And even now I'm very careful when I drop it.
Right.
You know, now I drop it more often because I sort of have less to lose.
What's the quality you most like in a woman?
Well, these are both very hard questions because, you know, it's like in both. First of all, what an odd time to be talking about men and women when it's all, you know, fluid. And,
precisely.
You know, stuff like that, and we're all questioning that.
Sure. It's part of the datedness of the questionnaire.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, and probably the sort of fashion of the time.
Sure.
Right? I mean, I think for both genders, certainly kindness is what I admire the most. I think it's too is how an individual uses their asset, regardless of. So Michael Ben, who's the boxing champion, was using to help me everything he knew about fear and power. Plus, he was this big black man who just insisted on walking with me everywhere, which was just great. I think, like, I have two friends who were professional models, and I admire, in the case of one who was first supermodel, Lauren Hutton, that she thinks it's hilarious. Deep down. I mean, it's like, it's like maybe about both. I admire people who have power and don't take it too serious.
Yeah, because it's fairly rare.
They're transparent about it. You know?
I had to interview her once for Vogue it was an article on the history of the cover model, or the kind of the face.
Yeah.
And it was at a time when Revlon, or one of the cosmetics companies, had just decided to put some women of color in one of its campaigns. And Lauren Hutton was one of the funniest people I talked to. And again, not taking it too seriously and not disparaging the job, because it's a job.
Well, it's also because she's so much more than pretty.
Yeah, that you're not going to be reduced to the face.
Are there words or phrases that you overuse? The question is, which words or phrases do you most overuse?
I think the phrase, I don't know, I use that a lot. I would say that.
Okay. What or who is the greatest love of your life?
What or who? Well, a great love of my life just died. Jesse Norman.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And, you know, I didn't meet Jesse until the 90s. And somewhere in my knowing her and then friendship, you know, we started signing letters. Letter from her, signed from Big Sis, and me from Little Sis. And I was crazy about her.
It's extraordinary.
And, you know, Jesse was a phenomenon. That's why the thing about judgment or just fairness in my students is like, why don't we talk about that? I mean, do you know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, so I think the what of the great love of my life is beauty in any form, whether it's physical beauty or whether it's like the beauty of a voice or something that somebody did that works well. You know, Jeannie Gang's building in Chicago. You know, it's something that I've been falling in love with Max Richter's music. Saw a very odd concert of it in a really weird place about a month ago. Crazy about Ella Fitzgerald right now. So I think that's it. It's beauty in all forms.
Yeah. When and where were you happiest?
Last time I was in Bolinas.
Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Which talent would you most like to have that you don't have?
Well, two things. I mean, I would love to say singing because I love singers, you know.
Yeah.
Get alluded to Lisa Fisher, who sang with the Stones for all those years, came to my class last week, and Jesse, and I've been talking about musicians. I wish I had a photographic memory.
That would come in handy.
Oh my God, can you imagine? And I know people who do, and I'm jealous of that.
Yeah.
I'm actually...
Envy.
You have one?
No, not at all. But one of my late teachers, who also just passed away, Harold Bloom, had a pretty photographic memory. So he knew the entire canon of British Romantic poetry by heart. And then he knew all of modernist poetry. And in a funny way, sometimes he said, it gets in the way. So he would try to remember Hart Crane, and he said, wait, this is Yeats getting in the way. So there was so much. So in his whole theories and anxiety of influence, that there's too much of the tradition weighing down on us. So in a funny way, I always thought, how can I believe he could recite anything out of the tradition? But he said twice, I heard him say twice, it's getting in the way. So it's interesting, right, that someone who had a photographic memory. It's different maybe for a conductor, people who have the entire tradition in their heads. There are people like that. So.
That's amazing. I always talk with my friends who love Proust about the fact that, you know, obviously in an age before internet or before kind of personal photography, accessible personal photography, Proust could see a painting once and write about it 30 years later in incredible detail. And you just think, no, you didn't do a Google image search.
Oh,
you
right.
didn't, somebody didn't send you a file of a photograph. Like, it is stored. And Proust used to say to his art collector friends, because he hung around with a lot of sort of rich and influential people in Paris in the early 20th century, late 19th century, he used to say, yeah, I mean, I love going to see these people's art collections, but I don't have any interest in accumulating art. I have an incredible museum in my head.
Oh my God.
I know. I envy it too. I wouldn't care if it got in the way, I think.
If you could change,
I would not care if it got in the way one
Right?
bit.
No.
If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
I wouldn't be afraid of being, I remember saying to the director, Mike Nichols, I said, you know, I wish on opening night I could just go out in the lobby and say hi to all the critics before the show.
There you go. Okay.
And he said, I'll go with you. But late Mike Nichols, he wasn't there.
You should have brought your boxer early.
Huh?
Should have brought the boxer.
The boxer.
You could have
yeah.
brought him
I
along.
could have brought the boxer.
Should have brought him along.
I would
Yeah.
not.
Fear
I
and-
would have
Would have
liked
instilled-
not to be afraid
Right. That's what I mean. But fear.
of being evaluated.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, that's good. That's connects. What do you consider your greatest achievement?
Isn't this funny? The first thing that comes to mind is when my mother was dying, and I was estranged, or I was not as close to her as her other children. I'm the oldest. But when I tell you this, you'll say, well, you were close. I remember walking into the hospital room at Johns Hopkins, and I had a nickname. My nickname was Toogie. For some reason, never outgrew it. This day, my niece will call me Aunt Toogie. She would be embarrassed if she said it around you, but right? And I walked in, and my mother's best friend, Joyce Hamer, I walked in the room, and my mother's best friend said, Toogie's here. And I had been around. It's not like I had came on the day she died or something. I'd been around. You know, I was coming back and forth from New York to Baltimore, which is, and stuff. So, but I walked in, and my mother, who was so weak, I remember her just putting her hands up and going, Toogie, like that. Mm-hmm. That's the first thing that came to my mind.
Nice.
Because
nice.
when I say that, I think because I kind of left, and everything, and I don't think, I think towards, in my adulthood, and I think she didn't think I cared about her. So it's just one of those things that happens in families.
Yeah, oh yeah. If you were to die and come back as another person or as a thing, who or what would that be?
Well, then the first thing that came to mind is my dog Memphis, who died last year, almost this time at 17 years old.
Oh, what kind of
And
dog?
she was a mutt, but she was a herder. She was a part Australian cattle dog, very smart. And in fact, I feel like when my mother died, Memphis was about a year old. I believed for that whole year, I believed that my mother had become Memphis. I mean, really, like I took Memphis out to the Hamptons and I just stayed out there, like for most of the whole winter and everything. So I felt like this was my mother. And a woman came up to me in Cinderella last week and said, I'm one of your neighbors. And I said, oh, which apartment? No, a different building. But she said, I just want you to know what your dog meant to me and to so many people.
Oh.
I said, well, she died. She said, I know. But she was just so full of joy and love.
So great. That is so great.
Where would you most like to live?
Bolinas.
Bolinas. Okay, we got that. Yes.
You can't say you're not consistent in your answers. What is your most treasured possession?
Boy, man, I don't know. Maybe I don't even think like that, I guess. Years ago, it would have been my Sony tape recorder, which was like when they first started when they went from, like, they used to be big boxes, but it used to be huge things. And, they got smaller and smaller over the years. And in the 90s, which is sort of when my work hit, Fires in the Mirror, which is on the stage right now, I had gone from a Panasonic, which was about like that big, and I had enough money to buy a Sony, which was about that big.
Okay.
That's the last time I remember thinking and walking around Crown Heights in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
My one fear, like in a housing project, my one fear was they're going to take my tape recorder.
Wow. What do you regard as the lowest depth of misery?
Ooh, man. Well, I saw when I was getting on the plane on Thursday to go to Los Angeles, there was a woman who, I can't tell what age she was, maybe her early 60s, very thin, and she was either had a terrible thing happen to her or had been very disabled her whole life. And, if you put a Chanel suit on her, you would go, oh, that's like a Brooke Astor type woman. You know what I mean? Like that type of,
Yeah.
And, but Chanel is all about, in a way, that type of, but she was really, really disabled. And there was a man with her who had to like to lift her up. I mean, like on his whole body and put her in a wheelchair. And then it took like 3 or 4 of those airport people to there was sort of like 2 or 3 of those airport people, plus that man, plus the wheelchair. And she was screaming.
Oh.
And I thought, is she, what, does she scream because she's hurt? Does she scream because she's scared? Is she screaming because she's excited about the trip? And, as they got closer I was right behind them as they were getting on the plane. She was screaming even more.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, is she scared? And so, when I was a little girl, if I saw something like that, I would be upset for a month. In fact, my mother said that I would not be able to be. I wanted to be a psychiatrist. And she said, you can't be one because you're too sensitive. Like that would have really shook me up. It shook me up as it was.
Yeah.
It's not to be shook up. Look at her life. And I think I was so moved by it. I think the height of misery would be to absolutely not be able to communicate, which could happen to me tomorrow. if I were to have a stroke.
Mm.
So I think that.
Right.
And to be unable to move or,
Right.
What is your favorite occupation? We assume that means if you weren't doing what you're doing.
Yeah. More and more sort of transitioning, writing.
Right.
Yeah.
What's your most marked characteristic?
What's
what
that mean?
People perceive about you when they first meet you.
I have
What
no
other people think.
idea.
Good.
And I know that's a psychological
That's
illness.
interesting. Okay.
I would say they thought I was tall.
That's yep.
What do you most value in your friends?
Two things, which I hope that they know I deliver. Compassion and discretion. If you're my friend and somebody, and I have, a couple friends who are well known, nothing's coming out of my mouth.
Right.
And if people try to get around and ask this, that, nothing is coming out of my mouth. So I admire that. I expect that from my friends, and I think it's the best thing I can deliver is compassion, listening, and discretion. Whatever you tell me, that's it.
Do you have any favorite writers?
Well, don't you think those things change over time?
Sure.
I really, because I think Shonda Rhimes is pretty cool. And I wasn't like a Shondaland person until I got hired there, which wasn't until last year, 2 years ago.
Right.
But I think, it's like,
And
first of all,
it makes me smile, Hannah, because I love you in that role.
well, they didn't pick up the show. It didn't pick up again. But she didn't write that. Somebody else wrote it. But I think, that the best writing right now, a lot of really good writing is in television at the moment.
Yeah.
So.
Who is your hero or heroine of fiction, television, film? Basically, the original question was who is your hero of fiction, but basically imaginary characters.
Imaginary characters.
Yeah.
A hero. I don't think I have a hero.
Okay.
I understand where that question's coming from. I suppose that's what we would have thought at one era, maybe then.
Yeah.
That writing was all about, is delivering a hero, right?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know that I have one.
Okay.
Do you have a hero in real life? That's the next question.
I don't.
What are your favorite names?
Names?
Names.
I like the name Tobias. Why? I don't know. I don't even know if I know a Tobias. I think I do, but I can't even, they didn't make an impression on me. I like the name, I think Isaiah is a nice name, is a good name. And like simple names, like Jane. I think Jane is a great name. Molly, just simple. Who was the Senegalese poet? I thought it was a great name.
Leopold Senghor.
That's a great
Leopold.
name.
The whole name is great.
Leopold Senghor.
Senghor. I mean,
President
that
of
is
Senegal and a poet.
And a poet.
Yeah.
That's
And a really good poet.
a fantastic.
Yeah, Leopold Senghor.
Yeah.
The whole name is a good
The
name.
whole name is
That
a great
in
name.
itself
The
already
Senghor,
worth.
it
Sounds already poetic, right?
Yeah.
And statesmanlike. Yeah.
And statesmanlike. Yeah, that in Proust's era, there's at least one woman in his circle whose name was Leopoldine, the feminized version of that. I really kind of love that.
I like the name Elizabeth. My niece is named that. I thought that was really great. That's her name. Yeah.
Yeah, not like applesauce. What is it that you most dislike?
Power misused. I mean, everything comes under that, right? Racism, right? Judgment, homophobia, too much money, not enough money.
And what you said much earlier, not being aware of one's power. What you said about men, not being aware of having physical or strength or power. Also that kind of unawareness or abuse. What is your greatest regret?
Boy. Well, I mean, I don't think I'm good enough. I don't mean good like holy. You know, I try to be good in that way. I try to be good. But I'm not good enough. You know, I don't feel that I'm good enough in my art form. And I hope I have time to get better.
How would you like to die?
Oh my God, what a question.
We saved the kickers for the end.
Yeah, I mean, can't remember the name of the guy who had like a book that came out about aging. When you go to some markets, especially in Arizona, he's selling products. He has like a beard, famous for either LSD or potted Harvard when that wasn't a cool thing. Anyway,
Timothy Leary?
no, robust guy, big beard. I mean, for all of us, right? I mean, like a great life in a fast decline.
Mm-hmm. That actually is a nice answer for the next question. Do you have a motto? What is a great life in fast decline?
Yeah.
My motto is confidence is overrated, give doubt a try.
Give doubt a try.
Give doubt a try.
All right. Okay, and then this is the one question that we've added to the questionnaire. And it is, whom would you most like to see or hear answering these questions? Ideally, a living person.
Yeah, I mean, I think Mike Bloomberg is kind of the man of the hour right now.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah.
Mike Bloomberg at this moment, and what we're taping, has not yet decidedly declared whether or not he's running for president.
But everybody's thinking it's
That's
kind
right.
of like,
That's
you know,
right, the man
it's
of the
kind of
hour,
like,
right.
you know, a jumper. Do you know what I mean? It's like somebody says, somebody's jump off the building, and we go outside and he holds his foot over.
Right.
We're all waiting, and then he doesn't
Maybe.
jump, maybe.
Jump. Don't jump.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many people. I mean, you could just go right through NYU and just stop people and get them to, you know, talk to you about it. Yeah.
No, but Mayor Mike is a good one.
Mayor Mike.
Mayor Mike.
All right. Mayor run the rest.
Anna Deavere Smith, thank you so much for doing this with us.
I hope it's okay.
Thank you so much.